Hey, welcome to a nice but chilly day here at BuQeye Barbecue. I appreciate you joining. Today we're going to do smoked salmon on the Traeger Timberline XL. So I've already got the dry brine mixed up, so we're gonna take you to that here real quick, and then we'll get the salmon out and get it ready. So I appreciate you joining. If you could take the time now to subscribe to my channel, I would certainly be grateful. And go ahead and like this video in anticipation of actually liking it. So we will see you here in a minute. So we're gonna dry brine this salmon today, and we're gonna get that dry brine together. So I'm starting out with 1.5 cups of brown sugar. This is light brown sugar, but dark brown sugar would work fine too, in my experience. Next, we're gonna add 1/4 cup of kosher salt, and you really do want the kosher salt. We're also gonna add 1/2 tablespoon of coarse ground black pepper. You could add a little more pepper if you're so inclined. That would be totally fine. But for this, 1/2 tablespoon is enough. And we're also gonna add 1/2 tablespoon of dill weed. So there we go. And we're just gonna grab a whisk and mix this together really well. Make sure everything's incorporated and evened out. And that's gonna do it. So we're gonna get our salmon ready, and we'll have this standing by to start dry brining. So we'll bring you back in a minute. Okay, so here's our salmon fillet. Fresh, not frozen, just unpackaged it. I'm not really gonna do much to this. In fact, I sort of wish I wouldn't have dirtied this cutting board, but that's all right. I'm gonna make sure there are no bones. Sometimes you have those pin bones. These that I get from Sam's are usually pretty good, but I still wanna make sure if there are any, you can use your fingers and pull out those bones, or even like a pair of needle nose pliers works great. Just grab the end and pull it out. The one thing I am gonna do is take this little tail end. It's such thin meat, it's gonna way overcook, and I'm just gonna cut the end off here. There we go. I might still throw that on the smoker, just knowing it's gonna come off a lot quicker than everything else. Next, what I'm gonna do is I've got the rack, and this is actually what I'm gonna smoke the fish on. It'll just be easier to put on and take off the smoker. But I'm gonna put this fillet on it, and I'm gonna take it over to the sink, and I'm going to rinse it off, top and bottom. By the way, this is a skin-on fillet. I really like doing the skin-on. Oh, there's a folded piece there. Let me see. I'll probably leave that on. It's a little thinner, but it's not too bad. But I'm gonna go over to the sink. I'm gonna use the spray nozzle and just rinse everything off. I'm gonna go really easy on it. I don't wanna break down the flakiness or anything like that. And I'm gonna do both sides, the skin side and the fillet side. And then I'm gonna pat it dry. So I'm gonna do that off camera. It's not worth getting the camera set up just to show me running water over a piece of fish. So we'll bring you back here shortly. Okay, let's get this salmon dry brining. So what I've done is I've rinsed it off good, both sides, and I just used paper towels to pat it dry. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the skin side first, so we don't lose a lot of seasoning off of the meat side. So I'm just gonna turn both of these over. I've got my dry brine mixture here. I did whisk it one last time, but I'm just gonna sprinkle evenly. Even on the skin side. You definitely don't want to run out of your dry brine on the for the meat side, but there should be plenty here. And this is going to leach moisture as it dry brines, so you definitely want to have a container, obviously. There we go. Make sure it's patted in good, because some of that will, of course, come off when we turn it over. And this is why we are doing the skin side first, because I'm not worried about it if some of that comes off the back. off the skin, I should say. There we go. Grab our mixture again. And I'm not gonna save any of this. I'm gonna get it all on there. You can't really overdo this with the ratio of ingredients that we have, especially for the time that we're going to have this brining. So I have a little bit left, so I'm gonna get this spread out and get it covering the fish and see where we might have some light spots. Here along the edge, definitely. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna call that good. We're not gonna let perfect be the enemy of good. All right, so what this is gonna do, it's gonna go in the refrigerator uncovered, just like this on the tray for 4 hours. You could go a little bit longer. I wouldn't go a lot more than 6 hours with this method, but 4 hours is what we're shooting for, so we'll bring you back and we'll get her on the smoker. Okay, so it's been exactly 4 hours and our salmon looks great. Definitely pulled out some moisture. There's drippings in the bottom of the pan, exactly what we're looking for. It's also firmed up, which is another sign that you're doing pretty good. So when you touch it, it's a lot firmer than it was before the dry brine. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna worry about moving the camera over to the sink, but I'm gonna take this whole rack over and I'm going to rinse this off and then show you what it looks like and talk about the next steps. So we'll bring you back in just a minute after I rinse both sides of this salmon. Okay, so we've got it all rinsed off. I've got some paper towels here. Just gonna pat this dry on both sides. And we'll flip it over and do the same thing to the meat side. Feels noticeably firmer. Get your nose off the... And you want to pat more than anything, but at this stage, you're not really going to hurt the fish if you have to rub anything off, some leftover dry brine, things like that. It is much firmer. It's almost got a skin on the meat side. It does have a skin. And it's going to develop even further in this next step where we're going to let this just sit out. You could even put a fan on it, but we're going to leave it sit out for 2 hours. It's going to develop what we call the pellicle on the meat side and firm up. It'll start to glisten a little bit, and then we're going to get it on the smoker. So we'll bring you back in exactly 2 hours. Okay, so it's been 2 hours. Our salmon is ready to smoke. It has this outer layer that we call a pellicle formed. It's very tacky. It's gonna grab that smoke. It's a good thing. So we're just gonna put it in. I'm gonna use the top rack of the smoker, and then I'm gonna use the bottom rack to hold this pan. Again, just gonna kind of keep it clean. Plus I'm gonna glaze this later, which I definitely want those drippings to go in the pan as opposed to on the smoker. Just try to keep it clean in the winter. So move the camera just a little bit So there we go. We're gonna get the lid shut and let this come back up to temperature, and we will bring you back probably in an hour just to take a look. My guess is this is gonna take an hour and a half to 2 hours. So, oh, by the way, the smoker is set to 165, and that's the lowest setting for the Traeger here. And I'm gonna use the super smoke once it comes up to that final 165 here in a few degrees. So we'll bring you back. Hey, so let's make a glaze real quick. Excuse me, a glaze real quick for our salmon. It's only been on about a half an hour, so we got a little while before we're going to use this. But what I have here to start is a small can of Chipotle peppers. So I don't know how many ounces it is. It's one of the small ones. I'm going to add a little bit of barbecue sauce, just some that we like here. A local restaurant puts it out called Montgomery Inn. I just want a little barbecue flavor there. And let's cut some of the spiciness with some honey. And as you can see, no recipe here. I'm eyeballing this. I'm not sure there's a bad way to do this. I think it's just gonna, whatever tastes good to you, and in this case, me. So I've got an immersion blender. We're just gonna put this in and thin it out and break up the chipotle. So pardon the noise. Okay, let's give her a taste. That is good. Got a little spice to it. I'm gonna add a little more honey, and that really is good. And a little more barbecue sauce, and frankly, I'm only doing this because it is really spicy. Now I'm gonna go pretty thin on the salmon, but I sort of want to use this sauce maybe for some wings, and I'm not sure the rest of the family will like it. It's pretty spicy. All right, one more time. All right, one more quick taste. That's really good. We're gonna call that good for the salmon, and we will bring you back here in probably 30 to 45 minutes, and we'll take a look. Okay, so we're gonna get this salmon glazed up. Temperature is about 135. I checked it a few minutes ago. You'll notice the small piece of salmon in the back is gone. I didn't glaze that. My son didn't want it with glaze, so I took it in to him when it was finished, and he mouthed the whole thing. So I'm gonna pour this on just because I want to use this sauce for other things, so I don't want to dip the brush back into it with salmon stuff on it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this glazed up and get the lid closed and let this go probably another 15 minutes and check the temperature, and I will bring this in at about 145-ish. I don't care if it gets up to 150 even. And I'll take the camera inside in the meantime, and we will see you in there. Okay, so here is our smoked salmon with our honey chipotle glaze. Looks great. The small piece of salmon that I did not glaze was really good. Probably a little overcooked, but it was hard not to overcook that really thin piece. This I pulled right at 145, perfect temperature as far as I'm concerned for smoked salmon. Smells great, it looks really good. So I'm just gonna take a bite. Ooh, I love the flakiness. Just gonna dig right into the middle. Oh, Man, that's freaking good. You got to do this. So this is about an 8-hour day, but really not that labor intensive. So we got our salmon out of the packaging, fresh salmon, not frozen, rinsed it off, coated it with our dry brine, just 4 ingredients there, and got it back in the refrigerator uncovered, let it dry brine for 4 hours. Pulled it out, rinsed it off again. You got to rinse that dry brine off. It's already done its job. Let it sit out with a fan on it for 2 hours, and then into the smoker at 160. My smoker actually ran a little warmer than that, 165 to 170, but that was fine. I used the super smoke setting on the Traeger. Didn't necessarily have to do that, but I did. It was on about right at 2 hours, just a few minutes less than 2 hours, and got it up to 145. I did at the end turn it up just a little bit. I felt like the rack that it was sitting on was cooler than the lower by a significant amount, so I did end up turning it up to about 210, probably an hour into the cook, something like that. But when it hit its temperature, I brought it inside and let it cool just a little bit, and it is outstanding. So thank you so much for joining me on this cook. Give a smoked salmon a try. You can do this on any smoker you want to. Look how flaky that is. Steam still coming out of it. That's outstanding. We'll see you next time at BuQeye Barbecue. If you haven't already done so, if you could like this video and do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. I'm getting dangerously close to 1,000 subscribers. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time.